Hi, I'm going to show you a video on how you can do max damage as efficiently and effectively as possible, and we're starting now. I'm Aspect of Skill, and this is a showcase of the damage I'm doing on my rifle build, effectively using the right skills and build so the team benefits from it as well as yourself. I will be showing you my build as well. Let me know in the comment section if you find this video helpful or anything that you do or use when doing harder content. I'll get right into it. As you can see, I consistently use my decoy skill when needed to take aggro off my CC. Also being patient as when to start shooting, waiting for the blind or any CC thrown out to actually do as much damage as possible while the NPC is CC'd. For example, on this boss fight, I'm aware of what the boss is actually doing and what I need to do to take him down. Knowledge of the opponent is very important. I peek at the right time to get as much damage and not taking any damage in return. This method and knowledge can be used on any PVE content of the game, especially in raids, when knowing when to use your skills to get aggro off you. Now what I'll do is I'll show you what I'm using in my build and the attributes and the stats. So stick around. So I'll show you what specialization I'm using. Specialization I'm using is sharpshooter. The points I actually allocate is the most is on the rifle damage, which gives me 15% increased rifle damage, and to get that digital scope. The rest of the points you can actually put on whichever weapon damage you want and whichever side weapon you're using for your secondary weapon. For me, I use the assault rifle, so I've put points in that. For the rest of the points, I've put it on flash bang grenade, which gives me a blind effect, which really helps in my damage output. The next point I give is the 15% increased headshot damage with the rifle or marksman rifle, and also for the 15% stability on my weapon. The med kit is also really good if there's bleed effects or poison or burn effects on you, which actually removes it. The next point I put is this one, which is sharpshooter tactical, which gives all group members that are closer to the enemies than you get 10% increased headshot damage, which really is good when it comes to a lot of enemies out there. So I'm just going to show you what inventory I'm using as my weapon. The weapon I'm using is the classic M1A, which gives me a total weapon damage of 551k, which is quite high, I think, in my opinion. The attributes I have in this is 15% rifle damage, 13% critic damage, and 10% damage to target and cover. The talent I'm using on this is the Eyeless, which gives me 20% weapon damage to blinded enemies. After 4 kills, applies blind to the next enemy you hit, which is pretty good. The secondary weapon I use is the M16. In my opinion, this is a really hard-hitting weapon. The attributes on this is 13% assault rifle damage, 19.5 health damage, and 10% damage to target at a cover. The talent I'm using on this is weapon damage increases by 3% for every 10% ammo missing from your magazine, which is called the Optimist, which is really good. The mask I'm using is the Coyote mask, which gives me 15% weapon damage, 5.8% crit chance, and 12% crit hit damage. And the mod I've put on this is actually 11.2% crit hit damage. The attribute, the talent on this is quite explanatory. I'm pretty sure you know about this. the chest piece I'm using is the Providence. I'm using all three Providence to get me that 10% headshot damage with 10% crit chance and 15% crit hit damage. The attributes on this is 13.9 weapon damage with a 4000 armor regeneration, which helps when I'm actually hiding in cover. If I've taken a bit of damage, it kind of helps me not use the medkit so much. The next attribute is 11.5% crit hit damage, and the mod I've put on this is 11.6% crit hit damage. The talent I'm using on this is Focus, which gives me 50% weapon damage, so it's 5% every second. So you just gotta hold it for 5 seconds and then you get 50% weapon damage. But if you're running solo, I would recommend you using Unbreakable. Unbreakable is very good in sustainability if you're taking a lot of damage, because you're basically alone and not really having any support with you. The holster I'm using is the Grupo Sombra, which gives me that extra 15% crit damage. The attributes on this is 15% weapon damage, 12% crit hit damage, and 3.5% crit chance. The knee pad I'm using is the Fox's Prayer. This is best in slot in every attribute because of that extra 8% damage to target or cover, with an attribute of weapon damage with 10.5%, and I've put 12% crit hit damage in there as well. For my gloves, I am using a Providence as well, which is 15% weapon damage, 4.9% crit chance, and 12% crit hit damage. The backpack I'm using is the last piece of Providence, which gives me 15% weapon damage, 12% crit hit damage, and I've put a bit of hazard protection in there, 10%. And the mod I've put in there is the 11.3% crit hit damage. The talent I'm using on this is Vigilance. Total weapon damage increases by 25%, but if I take any damage, it disables it for 4 seconds, which is not that long if you just hide in cover for a bit and then you'll get it back. The skills I'm using is the Blinder, Firefly Blinder, which helps me a lot because I'm running with the eyelets. And also in usually when I'm running any other legendary or raids, it depends on the situation if I have to use an EMP jammer or a decoy to get that aggro off me, and a must, which is the Reviver Hive. For the Shade watch, this has very important, which actually helps in the amount of damage you're doing. I've put 50 points on weapon damage, which gives me 10% extra weapon damage. I've put about 38 points on crit chance, that gives me 7.6% crit chance. I actually want to get it up to 10%, which will give me extra crit chance. And the crit hit damage, I've got 20%, which is 50 points in there to get me that extra crit hit damage. So I'll show you my stats right now. On my rifle, I have 36.8% crit hit chance, and I have 188.6% crit hit damage and 130.4% headshot damage, which is quite high. This weapon is very reliant on your CC. The CC is blinding NPCs consistently, so you are doing 20%, you have that extra 20% weapon damage on you the whole time. I would recommend, actually, if you're not having a CC in your group, then use either the Talent Rifleman, or you can put Boomerang in there, which is very good. Or if you don't have a good classic M1A, I would recommend the Baker's Dozen, which is quite good as well. It works out pretty well. If you found this build helpful, do make sure to click that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all later.